This is Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
I'm the only lawyer ever to obtain a court ruling that a president of the United States committed a crime.
For truth. For competition.
As a young lawyer, I helped break up AT&T. That's why you have all your cell phones today.
For sovereignty. For the Republic.
I'm the guy who at Judicial Watch, which I founded, uncovered the Chinagate scandal. Millions of dollars going to the Clinton campaign, corrupting our political system.
For the privacy of citizens.
And I'm the only guy to have enjoined the National Security Agency from mass surveillance on hundreds of millions of Americans.
Tearing it up.
I'm the son of meatpackers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
Bringing it back.
We're going to take this country apart and put it back together again in the way envisioned by our founding fathers.
It's not just talk.
We're not just regurgitating news stories. Larry Klayman, special prosecutor, is making the news.
And now, here's Larry.
Welcome to this edition of Special Prosecutor with Larry Klayman. This is a very important show. There have been certain events that have occurred, particularly in the last week with regard to the Clintons, the Obama administration, major scandals. Frankly, they're nothing new because I've been dealing with this kind of stuff now for almost 30 years with the Clintons. They've been a nemesis. I'm a little bit like Perry Mason and the prosecutor in the case. They saw each other every week in court. Now, these Clintons, they finally have been caught. Their time has run out. The Obama administration and President Obama himself was complicit in major crimes. And what we know this week is that there is this bribery scheme that has now come to fuller light called Uranium One. And there's another scandal dealing with a consulting firm, if you want to call it. That's the diplomatic way to call it. It's a front operation for the Russians called Fusion GPS that dealt with a so-called British spy, Christopher Steele, that was being paid by the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign and the Democratic National Committee. No surprise, DNC, a corrupt racketeering enterprise, which has done legal things many times in the past. And before I get to that, let me tell you about the past. Let's go back to 1996, and when the Clintons were in office, in the administration. This is a long story, so I'm going to actually ask Radio America to give me a prompt as to the time that I have during this segment, because I need to tell the story, and that's why we need this entire show, and it's why we're not having any guests this week. But the Clintons, going back to 1996, were caught by yours truly and others. We sparked it. I was the founder and chairman and general counsel of Judicial Watch, that they were taking bribes from the communist Chinese. And they were taking bribes from big donors in the United States, not just to do overseas trade missions to China and elsewhere. In other words, pay the government $100,000. The government will help you do your bidding. But it really wasn't going to the government at all. The money was going to the Democratic National Committee and also to the Clinton-Gore reelection campaign. Those were the trade missions. We proved that there was a bribery scheme there. This case went on for 11 years. It was before Judge Royce Lamberth. He gave me the ability to take depositions of virtually the entire White House and the Department of Commerce. It was being run by Ron Brown, who died mysteriously in a plane crash in Croatia. Conveniently, many people think that the Clinton administration was behind that death, Hillary Clinton in particular, and Bill. Of course, Hillary was the hitman of Bill, and she arranged things through her various individuals. She had mafia connections and other connections through some of the people that worked for her. And so we knew that there was bribery in the Clinton years during the White House. It was nothing new. And they'd done the same thing in Arkansas. It was highly, highly corrupt. They were never caught. They believed they were above the law. They were the Bonnie and Clyde of American politics, as I called them. And in addition to that, we also found out that the Clintons were taking money through the Bank of China. This was individuals by the name of Charlie Tree, who became known, and also Johnny Chung, who I actually wound up representing. He trusted me more than he trusted his Asian American lawyer, Brian Sun, after I took his deposition. And Johnny was a good guy, and he came forward, he came clean as to what he was doing. He gave Hillary Clinton a $50,000 check in the White House for special favors. He said it was like a turnstile, put the money in and you'll get what you want. So all of this is nothing new about what I'm going to tell you right now and what you've seen on Fox News and some other publications this week, the Wall Street Journal, even the Washington Post had to report this. The liberal Washington Post, that's owned by Jeff Bezos, the owner of Amazon, ultra-leftist, has been trying to destroy President Trump. So this all needs to be kept in perspective. And the Clintons did this over and over and over again. It wasn't just Chinagate. They weren't just taking money from the communist Chinese, compromising national security, giving them information about our security plans with Taiwan. Taiwan is the enemy of communist China, but many other bribery schemes as well. A few years ago, I brought a case under the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act in Palm Beach County in the federal court there, figuring that Palm Beach was a little more conservative than Miami sometimes in terms of the judges, that we would get a fair hearing in that case. And the theory of that case was that I was going to, in effect, be the plaintiff. I was, because I had filed a Freedom of Information Act request for Hillary Clinton's emails, which would show this bribery in all likelihood, and that was suppressed. And that was part of a racketeering enterprise. We know she destroyed 33,000 emails along with her legal counsel at Williams and Conley, David Kendall. We know that she smashed cell phones and used bleach bit to remove permanently those emails. Well, the case wound up again before a Clinton-appointed judge, and you guessed it, he dismissed the case. It went up to the 11th Circuit. The 11th Circuit is highly leftist, and it's an extremely lazy circuit. It really doesn't look at stuff very carefully. I don't know why. Maybe it's the heat up there in Atlanta, but it slows everybody down. But there was no justice, okay? And that's nothing unusual today in the court system, because about 90% of all judges were appointed by either President Bill Clinton or Barack Obama. They're not terribly honest people. They wear their politics on their sleeve. But the reason I'm telling you this story is because what we now found out with this Uranium One scandal is that Hillary Clinton was at it again when she was Secretary of State, is that in exchange for hundreds of millions of dollars of contributions to the Clinton Foundation, in exchange for inflated speaking fees, upwards of $500,000, $500,000 for Bill Clinton to speak in Moscow and then to meet Vladimir Putin, that Hillary Clinton greased the sale of uranium, 20% of American national reserves of uranium, to the Russians while she was Secretary of State. Now, this is treason. This is something that needs to be prosecuted, something that, once she's indicted and convicted, could put her away for life in a jail cell. I would suggest that she be put away in that jail cell along with Bill Clinton and even her lovely daughter, Chelsea, who knows what's going on here. They can all, have parties in a federal penitentiary because they have sold out the American people. Uranium is a vital resource for the United States. It's not just used to build nuclear bombs and things like that. It's a source of energy for nuclear reactors, for the medical world, but radiation therapy, people that have cancer, those kinds of things. And they just sold it to the Russians. And that's the reality here. And it's been all over the news, and we know that it's out there. And in addition, another scandal occurred this week, came to the forefront in a greater way. And it deals with Fusion GPS, a so-called consulting firm, which is really a front operation for the Russians. And it turns out that the Democratic National Committee, which was taking the money during the years the Clintons were in office with regard to China, taking it from China, in effect, and also selling seats on trade missions illegally, so Ron Brown could do business for businessmen. They gave a lot of money to the Clinton-Gore campaign and the Democratic National Committee. We know that Fusion GPS was working with a retired British spy by the name of Christopher Steele, and that these individuals ponied up a phony dossier on then-candidate Trump for the office of the presidency, claiming that he was engaging in illegal, salacious sexual acts in Moscow. It was intended to smear him so he couldn't be elected president. And, of course, that's ironic, talking about salacious sexual acts. Bill Clinton himself obviously had some difficulty with women. I wound up representing nearly all of them, whether it was Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, Kathleen Willey, Dolly Kyle Browning, or Jennifer Flowers. So Hillary was going after Donald Trump, claiming that in effect he was a pervert and he was over in London, in Moscow, trying to hook up with Russian prostitutes and weird things like urinating on his bed and that kind of thing. So it's unbelievable, but you have to believe it in terms of the context of the Clintons, of what they have done throughout their entire so-called criminal career. It's a racketeering enterprise. And that's why you need a very strong person to take them on. I'm going to talk about in segment 2 what's been happening and why, frankly, yours truly needs to be nominated, needs to be made special counsel to investigate and to bring indictments and to prosecute what's going on. I'm really the only one in town, for that matter, in the country that will do it, that will risk life and limb. And I'm not exaggerating, because people in this country, particularly lawyers, they feather their own nest. They want money. They don't want to stick their neck out. They're afraid of the consequences. And even our Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, has buried his head in the sand. And that's what I'm going to talk about in segment 2. We're going to have a petition up on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Please sign up for that, urging President Trump to direct the Justice Department to appoint me as special counsel. Frankly, I'm the only one that will stick his neck out. I have the experience. I'm the only lawyer ever to have a court rule that Slick Willie, Bill Clinton, committed a crime when he released the Privacy Act protected White House files of a woman he sexually abused in the Oval Office right after her husband had died. Unbelievable low class, but also criminal to release the Privacy Act White House file of this woman to smear her when she was grieving for her husband. So we'll be right back with this, but I want you to go to freedomwatchusa.org, contribute to our cause. We are the mouse that roared. We are your Justice Department, and we need your strong support, and we need your strong prayers. I'll be back, and we'll talk more about this in just a few seconds.
Dangerous.
You don't hear? Use the court and the law.
Lethal.
This is bad.
Special prosecutor.
Very bad.
Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
Now I want to talk about our Attorney General, who is an inert person. He's very polite. He has a nice way about him, but frankly, he's a coward. And I wrote a column in WorldNet Daily last week. Go to freedomwatchusa.org. freedomwatchusa.org. Read it. Contribute to our cause. We need your strong support. But what's it about? Our Attorney General, who has been accused of lying to Congress, I believe unfairly, he didn't reveal that he met with the ambassador of Russia during the presidential campaign when he was advisor to then presidential candidate Trump and his family, is accused by Democrats in Congress of lying under oath because he didn't reveal those discussions that he had while he was a U.S. Senator. He revealed discussions he had in his political capacity as an advisor to the campaign. He's also under investigation for playing a role, allegedly, in the firing of James Comey. Now, there was nothing wrong in playing a role in the firing of James Comey. We'll talk about that a little later. This guy's corrupt to the core. He's covered everything up. He's a political hack. And frankly, he needs to be prosecuted, too. And I'll tell you why he's involved in these various scandals that we talked about in the earlier segment. But Sessions doesn't want to do anything. He sits there because he's afraid that if he appoints a special counsel to investigate the Clintons over the destruction of 33,000 email, Uranium One, Fusion GPS, and all the other scandals that have occurred in recent years, not even going back to the Clinton administration, because there were over 40 then that have never been followed up on, other than what I did at Judicial Watch at the time and what I'm still doing at Freedom Watch, is that this Attorney General either needs to do his job or get out of town, get out of Dodge. He's an absolute disgrace to the office of Attorney General. I asked him to review the Bundy case. He told me he would. He never did that. Instead, he says, I'm not taking sides, and praises the prosecutors. And we'll talk about that trial, which is going to start next week on October 30th. But Sessions won't do anything. And that's why I have this petition up on our website at freedomwatchusa.org. Please sign that petition. Give us your name, give us your address, give us your contact information. The American people cannot be afraid. Our country's hanging in the balance. We no longer have a justice system. It's corrupted by the executive branch, not the president, okay? And he's not even in control of his own Justice Department. 97% of the lawyers there who lie repeatedly are Clinton and Obama loyalists. There was a study where it was shown that 97% of the lawyers at the Justice Department either voted for Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama before that, and or gave money to them for their political campaigns. This is a Justice Department which is corrupt top to the bottom. And I deal with one section of it a lot. I've been dealing with it for years. It's called the Federal Programs Branch. They're just paid liars. In fact, they were sanctioned by a federal judge in Texas, the case involving amnesty that I participated in winning on behalf of Sheriff Joe Arpaio, where we killed Obama's executive amnesty. This is what we're dealing with at the Justice Department, and it's why President Trump must either direct Jeff Sessions to appoint me as special counsel, because I'll let it rip. I mean, wherever the case may go, I feel that this is my mission. And, there's a religious aspect, too. I won't get into that here. But this is something that needs to be done, and frankly, there's no other lawyer in this country who will lay it on the line for this to be carried out. The Clintons need to be indicted. President Obama and the people around him need to be indicted and convicted. They're all involved in this scandal, and that's why go to that website at freedomwatchusa.org, sign the petition. We're going to give it to President Trump. He knows who I am. He knows what I do. He needs to direct Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, to either appoint me as special counsel or frankly quit and go off and go back to Alabama, and he can eat grits and he can eat fried chicken. But frankly, at this point, that's all he's worth. So I hate to be blunt, but that's what we're dealing with today. And we're going to come back and we're going to talk about these things. But I want you to really do research here. See, this show is not just about reporting new developments of what I do and others do at Freedom Watch. It's not about regurgitating the news. As the lead into this show says, we make the news. I'm not here just to tell you what's going on. This is different than other talk shows. I'm telling you what needs to be done in this country. And our founding fathers pledged their honor and their sake and their fortunes and risked their lives to form a new nation. You can at least sign this petition to urge President Trump to appoint me as special counsel. And I'll tell you why I need to do that, and I'll be right back.
And now, 4 words that make corrupt politicians make wee-wee in their little pants.
Transparency and the rule of law will be the touchstones of this presidency.
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it.
Special Prosecutor Larry Klayman.
Be the one who makes our country great again. Go to freedomwatchusa.org and donate.
Now let me be more specific why you need Larry Klayman appointed as special counsel. What is special counsel? Let me explain that to you. It's someone who is appointed by the Justice Department who has all the powers of the Justice Department and the Attorney General behind him. It's someone who is supposed to be independent. You've got Robert Mueller, of course, that was appointed to investigate so-called Russian collusion with the Trump campaign and now the Trump presidency. He's corrupt. He's got all Clinton prosecutors and Obama prosecutors working for him. In fact, it's no coincidence that Robert Mueller was investigating the Fusion GPS scandal along with James Comey when they were former FBI directors. And we now know that it's been covered up. Robert Mueller has a major conflict of interest because there's no Russian collusion in all likelihood with the Trump and the people around Trump. But there obviously is Russian collusion with the Clintons. And there's Russian collusion with the Obama administration. Because knowledge of that Fusion GPS scandal, as well as the Uranium One scandal, went up to President Obama. That's out there now, too. He knew about it. And they covered it all up all these years. And God knows what else they did. And that's why you need a special counsel with the powers of the Justice Department, who are not tied to the Justice Department in terms of what it can and can't do, who's independent. The special counsel is a lot like the former independent counsel when we had an independent counsel law. That's how you had the appointment of Ken Starr and Robert Ray during the Clinton years. And they didn't go the distance, okay? They investigated. They found that Hillary Clinton had lied under oath to a federal grand jury. They found other crimes. But when Ken Starr took an exit stage left to become dean of Pepperdine towards the end of his term, Robert Ray said, I'm not going to indict because I don't think that a predominantly African-American Democrat jury in the District of Columbia would return a conviction. So he basically bailed out. Ken Starr bailed out before that with Monica Lewinsky, claiming that Congress should deal with it. But this also tells you the story. Congress can't deal with anything. Congress is a worthless enterprise that just sucks our money dry and accomplishes little to nothing. I think we can all agree on that. All these investigations that were going on during the Obama years, let's just look back to the last 8 years. It was all for show and not for dough. It got people on Fox News. It got them political campaign donations. Some of the people that went on TV, like Trey Gowdy, who's a very good speaker and very convincing, that's about all he is, because behind that, there's nothing. He, in fact, whitewashed the Benghazi investigation. These people didn't even investigate another scandal called Extortion 17, where over 30 special ops died in a crash in Afghanistan, and no one investigated it. It's still been covered up to this day. You can read about it at freedomwatchusa.org. We represent some of the aggrieved families. Trey Gowdy didn't even show up for a hearing that we held. Jason Chaffetz, who's now doing commentary on Fox News for money, I might add, covered it up. All he did was cry with crocodile tears at the hearing, but never did anything. And it goes on and on and on. The IRS, what did they do about the IRS? Nothing. What did they do when Eric Holder, former Attorney General, lied under oath about Fast and Furious? They held him in contempt, but they never followed up on that. It was just for show. This is Congress. And let me tell you something, because you see, very few people in Washington understand what goes on in Washington. I think I'm one of the few. Maybe I'm the only one who tells it like it is. Maybe other people understand, but they just don't want to talk about it because they want to be part of the club. They want to be invited to Georgetown soirees and parties. And if you were the ox of even the other party, you become a pariah. You know, I said when I ran for the Senate back in 2003, 2004, that I didn't want to become a member of the Senate club. I wanted to take a club to the U.S. Senate. I wanted to take the concept of Judicial Watch inside of the U.S. Senate and, frankly, sue the crap out of the senators and the House of Representatives, the hypocrites up there, and to use my powers also to clean up the judiciary, which is highly intellectually, if not otherwise, corrupt, except for a few exceptions that I've seen over my 40-year career, like Judge Royce Lambert, like Judge Richard Leon. Very few, extremely very few. They're all politicians in robes, and they make decisions based on how their career is going to advance or whether they're going to get into these parties in Georgetown or the state that they're working in or who appointed them to the bench. We have a highly politicized judiciary. And the beauty of a special counsel is that the special counsel will have the ability to go before a grand jury and indict the Clintons, indict the Obamas, indict the criminals, indict anybody. I don't care if you're Republican or not. I've always been nonpartisan. I went against George W. Bush, in my opinion, one of the worst presidents of my lifetime, maybe almost as bad as Obama. He left this country in ruins. He engaged in illegal wiretapping and surveillance of American citizens without probable cause. He's now out there attacking Trump. I mean, frankly, I don't even think the guy wrote his speech because I don't think he's literate. He went to Yale because his dad got him in there, essentially. The guy's actually a moron, to be blunt. But the reality is this, is that you have to take a strong stand. And a special counsel, I would be able to indict people. I would be able to go to trial. We'll get a jury to make a decision. It won't be dependent on some hack political judge that perhaps is assigned to the case. So that's why you need a special counsel. But ask yourself this. You know, there's a lot of commentary on Fox News right now, but they're missing the point. A lot of the commentators there, it's not Fox News' fault, but the people that they bring on couch it because they want to stay part of this Washington, D.C. club. This Uranium One scandal, where our 20% of our uranium reserves was sold to Vladimir Putin and the Russians, and probably then sold off to Iran and North Korea to build nuclear weapons to use against us and to use against our allies like Japan and South Korea and Australia and Europeans. The fact is, the Congress knew about this sale. Where were they at the time? Why didn't they review it? Why didn't they stop it? Peter King came on television on Fox News last Friday and said, I knew about it, and I wrote a letter. Where was John McCain? John McCain, the self-appointed savior of the United States with regard to matters of the military and national security, someone who hates President Trump so much that he can't even vote for things that are good for the people. He just wants to stick it up the derriere of President Trump. Where was McCain? Why didn't he step in? Why didn't Lindsey Graham step in, Senator Graham? Why didn't others who have this great concern about national security step in? Because they're busy raising money to be reelected. They're busy with their own agenda. They're not representing the American people. And that's the story here. Yes, we had criminals. We had people like Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton taking bribes to sell the uranium. We had the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign, again, lining the pockets of people who connected to communist regimes. Yes, and Russia is still communist. Don't kid yourself about that. The leadership, Putin, he's a devout communist. Now, the people maybe want to change things, but they can't. It's a dictatorship. If you rise up and complain about Putin, he kills you. You wind up poisoned or falling off a bridge in Moscow, and they'll claim that you drank too much vodka. And Putin even tried to kill the Pope, John Paul II, many years ago, and they were caught in that when he was head of the KGB. He is a terrible person. There's no doubt about it. But the reality here is that you need a special counsel. You need Larry Klayman. When I was running Judicial Watch, and now, of course, I run Freedom Watch, which does what Judicial Watch used to do. Judicial Watch does primarily Freedom of Information Act requests. It's nice to get documents and get them out there. But beyond that, that doesn't bring about justice, because then you have to depend on the Justice Department or Congress to do its job. And they don't do their job. So what good are the documents? I mean, it sounds good. You get to go on TV. You get to pound your chest to say how great you are. Tom Fitton's on TV all the time saying, I'm great. And that's fine. I'm glad they got the documents. But what are you going to do once you get the documents? Either get up on the dance floor and dance, or you sit down. And that's what needs to be done right now. And I'm willing to lay it out there on the line. I'll take the consequences of what needs to be done. I have taken consequences in the past. I believe in what I do. I believe in this country. If our founding fathers could risk their lives, their fortunes, and pledge their honor to form a new nation, the least we can do is to try to use our court system and our justice system to bring about justice. And that's what I've been doing all these years. So go to our website at freedomwatchusa.org, freedomwatchusa.org. Sign the petition urging President Trump to instruct Sessions or anybody else to appoint Larry Klayman as independent counsel. Now, I might say that the person under Sessions, he needs to go too, along with Mueller and Comey. This guy, Rod Rosenstein, is also corrupt. He was the U.S. attorney in Maryland, and he was appointed by Obama. Why Sessions ever put him in as number two? He's the guy that appointed Mueller. Mueller, who was involved in this Fusion GPS scandal because he was supposed to be investigating it. Rosenstein was the U.S. attorney in Maryland, where that investigation was primarily taking place. When Mueller left, Comey took over. They all covered this up, not just so they could remain the political hacks that they are in Washington without offending anybody, because that's all they care about is their own career, not the American people, but also because, frankly, they're sympathizers to what was going on. That's my view. That's my opinion. I don't think they really care. They just care about themselves. And then you've got Sessions, who's caring about himself right now because he's worried if he takes strong action that he'll wind up getting indicted by Mueller. But this is not the only thing that I've been doing. We have a case concerning Benghazi. It's against Hillary Clinton. It's a powerful case. I represent the parents of Ty Woods and Sean Smith, who died at Benghazi, along with the ambassador. And the fact that Hillary Clinton was using a private email server, which were crimes in and of itself because they contain classified information, gave up the coordinates of the ambassador and the sons of my clients, Pat Smith and Charles Woods. And they died because of Hillary Clinton's gross negligence or otherwise. Now, this is wrongful death. We have a case against Hillary Clinton for wrongful death. It's going through the court system right now. It was assigned to an Obama judge. She dismissed it on the eve of Memorial Day to basically stick it to our clients, a low-class decision to do it at that time, and it was a hack decision. It's up on appeal right now, and I'm confident it'll be overturned, and we'll move forward. I also have cases against the National Security Agency that under the Obama administration were doing massive illegal surveillance, even more than George W. Bush was doing, whether it was President Trump, whether it was Supreme Court justices, whether it was other judges, whether it was prominent businessmen, whether it was yours truly. Nearly everybody was being surveilled. This was covered up by James Comey. We went to James Comey with our client, Dennis Montgomery, who was a whistleblower with more information than even Edward Snowden. And Comey covered it up. Why did he cover it up? Because he and Robert Mueller were also using the FBI to conduct illegal surveillance in violation of the Fourth Amendment. A judge has already ruled this as violative of the Fourth Amendment. That's Judge Richard Leon, one of the few good judges in this country that had a little bit of courage at that time. And let's hope he still does, because I've gone back to him with new abuses by these intelligence agencies. And we know that the head of these intelligence agencies, the director of national intelligence, James Clapper, he not only hates President Trump, he's not only a political hack, but Dennis Montgomery will tell you that he was at the pinnacle, at the top of this illegal surveillance. And he lied to Congress. When Senator Ron Wyden, a Democrat, asked him if the intelligence agencies were doing mass surveillance on the American people, he said no. His eyes shifted faster than Howdy Doody. He lied. He's lied several times since then, too. But, of course, he didn't go to prison. He wasn't indicted. And he should be included in the special counsel investigation where I should be appointed to lead. These people need to be put away. I've got other cases as well. We've got cases against Antifa in San Francisco because no one will do anything about that. Sessions would rather investigate white supremacists and neo-Nazis. That's fine. Investigate them. But also investigate Antifa. And investigate radical blacks like Louis Farrakhan, Nation of Islam, Black Lives Matter, who have actually advocated killing people and been involved in that. And this is why we need a special counsel. We need to clean house. We need to clean the rat's nest out of our justice system. And let's also indict some of the corrupt judges who have covered up for what's been going on, because the House Judiciary Committee won't do impeachment proceedings. They just sit there and talk. Again, Fox News is great, but action speaks louder than words. So these are the kinds of things that I've been doing throughout my career. We are at a critical mass right now. Even countries like Israel and Brazil and other countries, they bring their chief executive, their presidents, their prime ministers to justice. We don't. We have this concept that somehow everybody's above the law if you're part of the Washington Club. That can no longer exist. Either we do it now or we're not going to have a republic much longer. I'll be right back.
Before he was a trial lawyer, he sliced him and diced him.
People used to ask me, Larry, what caused you to start Judicial Watch and now Freedom Watch, given the powerful forces in this country that put you at risk?
In a meat packing plant.
I'm the son of meat packers in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I know how to slice and dice.
A very special prosecutor, Larry Klayman.
If you'd like to support Freedom Watch and this radio show, go to freedomwatchusa.org.
I want to talk now about a case that's coming to trial this Monday, October 30th, coming to trial tomorrow. It involves Klayman Bundy, two of his sons, and one other defendant by the name of Ryan Payne. This is perhaps the most important criminal prosecution in the history of the United States since the founding of this republic. Klayman Bundy has maintained that the state of Nevada owns the land upon which his family has ranched for 150 years. And in fact, it does. A great legal argument can be made, and we're going to be making that in court very shortly. And that's why when he was forced to pay grazing fees, which were not due and owing to the federal government, he tried to pay them to the state of Nevada. But the officials in Nevada also were cowardly, and they returned his checks. Well, lo and behold, after many years, along came corrupt Senator Harry Reid, an individual who's mafia connected in Las Vegas, Nevada, a hateful individual. I mean, you've seen him. I don't need to tell you about former Senator Harry Reid. The only good thing he's ever done is be supportive of the state of Israel, and that's only because people like Sheldon Adelson, who's very pro-Israel, the owner of the Venetian Empire, and others have stuck money into his pockets to be pro-Israel. He actually has no interest in Israel otherwise, but the money talks and nobody walks. Now, Harry Reid came along with his son Rory and tried to sell the land out from under Klayman Bundy. It's kind of like a cartoon, Snidely Whiplash of my youth, in Rocky and Bullwinkle. Because to sell that land, they were trying to do it reportedly to the communist Chinese for so-called environmental farm, would have probably kicked back a lot of money to them. So what did Harry Reid do? He got Obama to appoint his chief of staff, Neil Coren, to be director of Bureau of Land Management. Bureau of Land Management sent in federal goons to threaten the lives of the Bundys, to physically assault Klayman Bundy's sister, Margaret, to tase his two sons, Ammon and Davy, and kick the family dog, really harm the family dog, and then secretly kill the Bundy family's cattle, many of them, the bulls, which you need to raise a herd, burying them in a mass grave. Now, people around the country saw this. Fox News was reporting it at the time. Others were reporting it. There were people in Congress that were jumping on the bandwagon to get, to feather their own nest, like Senator Rand Paul. And it was reported, and people around the country came to the Bundy Ranch to peacefully protest. But some of them came armed because they have a Second Amendment right to carry arms, and they wanted to make sure they weren't killed as the Bundys thought they were going to be killed. Well, eventually, the federal government, these goons from the Bureau of Land Management, were forced to leave. There was a successful standoff. And the sheriff of Clark County at the time told them to leave. And in fact, they didn't want any harm to come to anybody. Well, 2 years later, Obama and Loretta Lynch indict them. And that happens after the Bundy sons go to Oregon because other ranchers were also being persecuted in Oregon. Hundreds of ranchers have lost their ranches in the West because of many other matters. And they just came to defense of that, and they also did it peacefully. Well, that was the trigger point. That was the excuse for Obama and then Attorney General Loretta Lynch to indict Klayman Bundy. And why was he indicted along with 18 others? I believe because Klayman, after that successful standoff, said that his family had been treated like the Negro in the Old South. He thought that was the correct word. Martin Luther King had referred to the African-American people as Negroes at the time. And Obama took offense to that. In fact, you can go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org and see at a White House Correspondents' Dinner how Obama is in effect threatening Bundy for using the word Negro. Well, sure enough, it came to pass. And Bundy, his sons, and the people in and around the Bundys that came to the Bundys' peaceful protest defense, they all were indicted. And we can't let this kind of thing to happen. Klayman needs to be acquitted because this is what King George III did in the days leading up to the American Revolution, busted into the homes of colonialists, stole property, assaulted individuals, even raped women, took the justice system back to the court of King James in England, so the colonialists couldn't even adjudicate the crimes that were being committed by the king. We therefore declared a new nation. Go to KlaymanBundyDefenseFund.org. We need your strong support. We need you to know what's going on. I'm assisting in the defense of Klayman Bundy. We need your help. Now, I'm a little hoarse right now because I'm very emotional, but I'll see you next week. I'll see you from Las Vegas, Nevada. God bless you. God save America. God save all of us.